Hello, Something Ghouls and Goblins. This is Something Guy 912 here, bringing you the second to last map in our weekly coverage of the Ravenholm chapter of maps known as D1_town_04, but for most, they consider this to be the final map of said chapter. We can get to that matter when it happens, but nevertheless, let's get into the scrutinizing. Alright, and we are now properly in the map. Starting off, we have this weird wire entity thing that seems to go nowhere. It just kind of loops around and ends right here on this board. And then speaking of board, we have the mine shaft, which goes completely down this way. But as you can kind of tell, there's not really any semblance of like a cart or an elevator that would make it so that somebody would naturally go down here. So I don't know how anyone got down here or got up here. Especially with this board being here makes it seem like there was never an intention for there to be an elevator shaft in the first place. So we will go down. And obviously you have to carefully navigate through these boards, and then you land on this small piece of catwalk right over here. I didn't really need to navigate like that, but you get the idea. Now, the procession of catwalks and rails here are kind of just set to be like, oh, I'm precariously up above here having to deal with all these head crabs just kind of mosey on around here. But the placement of some of these catwalks doesn't really make a lot of sense in terms of what their practical use was. Like, starting off from the platform we jumped down from, it just ends here, and the implication is that there used to be a stairway that would wind up to this whole entire mine shaft. But obviously there's no decals to suggest that it just broke off. It just seems like it's supposed to end here for some reason. And then the second one, obviously this is broken off, which probably makes an amount of sense. We have the second part right here where this catwalk just kind of ends right here on this little platform. And again, the idea is that maybe there was a stairway that went down here, or maybe went down this way, but again, nothing to suggest anything of the sort. And then same goes for this one as well. Again, you could probably assume that this probably just broke off, but again, there's no residue for that. Maybe they didn't want to overdo it on the props. But the third one that's very odd is we have this piece right here. And what's fascinating about this, and it's just something that you'll learn something new about Half-Life 2 every day, is if you jump on this, it falls off like that. Like, I've never done that in any of the playthroughs of Half-Life 2, and I did not know it could do that. But regardless, that thing is set up here as though it's supposed to lead to this one, but obviously it would be kind of running up against this part of the cave like this. So I don't know what the practical use of this is. And then, with that out of the way, we go down proper. Now, I'm going to turn on Matt_Fulbright so I can demonstrate this. But you have this mining rail here, and as you can see, if I turn the brightness up, it just, the rail texture just kind of teeters on these two endpoints here. It doesn't even look like there's a cave-in. Like there's this little like support spur here, but they didn't even make sure the cave texture is like believably wrapped around it. So it just randomly ends right here as opposed to just being caved in. And obviously turning on Matt_Fulbright 1 can kind of show you the seemingly strange like wrapping of the rock textures like this, especially with how much they had to stretch the rock textures this way. So we will go back to the natural lighting, since I think that's the only time I need to have it on for that. So we have this little section where, oh, there's a fence in the way. Why is there a fence here? I don't even know. It's not even a fence gate to suggest that maybe they want to keep people from coming in and out through these tunnels. And even more peculiarly is that this little piece of catwalk like has this jumping off point, as though it was like the intended way to get across here was to jump across here onto these planks to get to the other side because of those fences being there, which is just even more peculiar. And then we shall proceed. Yep, they're just kind of just wandering around. We have another mine shaft that just goes all the way down and seemingly has no elevator or cart at all. Even though there's a light here to suggest that this was used at some point. There's just this gap you gotta jump across, and then you basically just plunge down. So we will plunge down. We will scurry on over to the next little mine shaft here. Now this is one that I always thought was very counterintuitive in terms of gameplay. So you see this barnacle, and for a first-time player, you're probably going to avoid this, but no, actually, you want to get caught by this barnacle because up above is a few goodies that you can grab. Now, this is not, like I said, this feels a little counterintuitive because the whole time that you've played Half-Life 2, you have tried to avoid getting caught by these barnacles. So, one being here like this, and being used to, like, time your approach to kill it as you jump down here is just, like I said, very peculiar. And not to mention the fact that this is another mine shaft that doesn't seem to have any way to get up or down, especially given that there's not even a tunnel on the upper portions of this shaft this way. So it's just this huge amount of verticality for no reason whatsoever. And we will continue on. We go over here into this little cave, and you gotta love the perpetually burning thing here. Like, I don't even know what is burning or how it's been burning for this long, but I guess it's just supposed to signpost you the correct way. We'll go over here, and we come across this peculiar mechanism of this minecart that is got one of them saw blades and a generator on top of it that just kind of goes up and down. Now, obviously, this has got to be a creation by Grigori, but how the hell did Grigori get this down here? Like, get this set up down here from where we last saw him, or, you know, just even remarking everything else regarding the lack of a mine shaft, or lack of a cart or elevator for the mine shafts that we've gone through. It's just equally perplexing. And then there's not really much else to discuss past this point. Obviously, you got to go through here. You have to wade through the trap, deal with these zombies as they come through. And this is near the level transition. There will be possibly an issue with how closely the next map's architecture aligns with the previous map's architecture, because if we go out of bounds, you can kind of see that this part of the tunnel is close to the same elevation as the bottom of this shaft. And this is where we last came out from in the beginning of the map. So we're not too far away from, like, where Ravenholm would be, like, over here in this area of the out-of-bounds area. But with that is it for D1_town_04. And that is it for that map. We only have one more map before we've completed Ravenholm as a chapter, and thus this weekly series of maps pertaining to spooky season. Hope you had a wonderful Halloween, and I'll see you next week.